Hi, my name is Katie and today I'm going to show you how to install Hairlocs wefts. First I'm going to go over some details about the wefts, what you'll need, and then I'm going to do a quick tutorial on a smooth, easy, clean install. My tutorial on my beautiful client here, Deborah, and we're going to be installing this gorgeous weft. Now, some amazing things about Hairlocs wefts are, look how thin that is right there. There is no itchy mustache on this. It is 30 grams of hair and it's 11 inches wide. And the beautiful thing about this is you can put it around and you can cut it. And that way you can cut it to customize to your client. So next I'm going to show you what you're going to need before we get started. So what you're going to need today is you're going to need your clips, some nylon thread, your Hairlocs Velcro, your threader, your cylinders, and make sure you have the correct cylinders for the wefts and not the eye-tips. And then we're also going to need our tools and a needle. I just don't have the needle out right now. All right, so we have little Miss Deborah here prepped and ready. I did a clarifying shampoo treatment on her to make sure to remove any oils up at her scalp area. You don't want to install the cylinders and have them slip at all because there's oils at the scalp. Next up, I flat ironed her because I wanted to make sure the hair is nice and smooth. Clean, clean, clean is what it's all about, to have a nice clean application so that there's no damage done to your client. And I clipped up, we did a horseshoe section, side to side and around. I used my Velcro clips to clip up all the little flyaways in the hair. And a good little tip I like to use is a little bit of hairspray to help with the flyaways that do happen. And especially with Deborah here, she's got quite a few. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to install the cylinders. And how we're going to install the cylinders is we're going to start in the back, and then I work my way one way and I work my way the other way, and then I will take the weft and measure it around her head. And so I'll show you how to install a few of the cylinders. Fast forward through that, then I'll show you how I clip on, how I sew on, and some major points like when we come to the edges, we want to make sure that we do it 3 times. We tie it off. It's going to help prevent any lifting. Then also we're going to do open blanket, close blanket, and we're going to do it twice on each side of the beads. And another important detail is do not sew through the beads and make sure you do not get tangled. Clean, neat and clean, and I'm going to preach it because it's just so important. So let's install the cylinders. I have my comb to help with sectioning. I have my pliers to help clamp the cylinders. I have my threader and it is prepped with the cylinders on it. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna start right here in the back, and what you're gonna wanna make sure is the size of the cylinder. Your section is gonna be the width of 2 of them, and it's gonna be rectangle. And what I mean by that is, let me set these guys down. We're gonna come right here. We're gonna get our section. And then make sure when you're coming through that it's nice and clean so that there's no crosshairs. Crosshairs will pull and create damage. I'm going to come through, section out the size that I think will be perfect for the cylinders to be on. And I'm going to try to show you an example too. If you pull through the cylinders and it's not going through, that means you have too much hair. And we're going to take the threader, we're going to place it close to the scalp, and that's going to help make sure to get all the little baby hairs too that are right here and tight. And then we're going to push and pull it through. And I had the right amount of hair because the threader did not get stuck. If you have too much hair, the threader will not come through, and then that means you need to go back through. Now, you want to make sure that you don't have any elevation. Elevation is going to create lift, uneven grow out, and breakage. So my tip to that is we're going to come through. I'm going to grab the cylinder with my clamp, make sure it's nice and tight. It's at 0 elevation, and then I'm going to clamp it, and we're going to do it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Easy peasy. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to install all the way on. So a few tips as I'm working through is you want to make sure that you are square to your section, just like when you're cutting hair. That way you can make sure everything is nice and clean and laying where it should. So my shoulders are nice and square to this. We're taking the threader, loop it over my finger, and then like I had mentioned before, take your pliers. And the best way to make sure there's no elevation is make sure they are flush with the scalp. and then we're gonna go 1, 2, 3. And then as you can see right here, I had to place a little clip. You wanna make sure everything is up and out of your way as you're working and make sure it's clean. You're gonna hear me say it all the time because I am a clean freak. I have completed installing these cylinders on Deborah here. Next up, we are gonna put the weft on, but before we get the weft on, we need to get the weft prep. So the first few things I'm gonna do for the weft is I wanna measure it around her head, and I purposely did not take her beads all the way around so I could show you how you can cut these guys and customize it to the size of the head. Before I do that, what I'm gonna do is you can kind of see it's a little bumpy, the weft itself, because it's been in the packaging. So take your flat iron and you're just gonna smooth over it. This is gonna help the weft lay flatter and help you not have any bubbles as you're sewing, and it's just gonna make your life a heck of a lot easier when you go through and you use the flat iron and just smooth it out. Okay, so after I do this, we're gonna cut and make the weft perfect for her head size, and then we're gonna get to installing. Okay, so if you can see, let's get a good image of that. It's nice and smooth now, much easier to install. Okay, so you're gonna take your weft and you're gonna place it from side to side, from one bead to the other. And what we're gonna do here, let me twist her. So here's where I stopped with her bead. I'm gonna take this weft and I'm gonna place it right here. And then I'm going to wrap it around. And all I'm gonna need to cut off is the excess. And the excess, the bead stops right about here. I can show you guys without dropping her. So I'm gonna cut off this last little bit. But what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna clip it all up and then I'm gonna cut it because I don't want it to fall and I wanna make sure I cut the head and cut the weft so that it comes to the end of the last cylinder. And you can see here, when you cut the wefts, they don't fall apart. It's how they're made. All right, and what you may also notice is the cylinders that I did, they match her base color. It's very important that the cylinders match their root base color and not say I'm doing a blonde weft and they have brown roots. Don't do blonde cylinders. Match the cylinders to your root. You also wanna make sure that you match your string that you're gonna be sewing with to their root as well, so that nothing is seen when their hair moves around. It gives a better blend and more seamless. So next what we're gonna do is we're gonna start my favorite part. We're gonna get this threaded. And when I thread, the length I always start with is I do 3 arm lengths. So we're gonna go 1, it's kind of hard to do in hand, but we're getting it done. 2, and 3. And then I'm gonna cut it and we're gonna start our first placement. And when we start the first placement, what we're gonna do, depending on their hair texture, so I'm gonna start on the second bead on her. If your client has really fine hair, come back on the 3rd bead. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do open blanket, and then we're gonna tie it 3 times, and then we're gonna come back doing open blanket, close part of starting. So right here is the edge, and what you'll see is a bunch of lift will come from that. This is how to prevent that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do it by 3s. We're gonna come right on to the edge of the bead, put it in, and then we're gonna do 1, and you're gonna keep it open blanket. I like to keep my finger there because it prevents any crosshairs from coming in, and make sure that you're pulling up on your string because you want your stitch to be on the top of the weft. So there's 1, here's 2, holding it there in place so it stays nice and clean, and then I'm going to make sure that I pull up on it. And if you get any slack, just kind of tug on it a little bit. 1 more time. And this one, the last one, you want to make sure is on the very edge of this weft right here, because you do not want to get lift, and that's what we're trying to prevent right here. So we're going to come through, and then we're going to make sure we come up when we finish. All right. Then I like to remove my clips as I'm done working in a place, so it's much easier. Gone from one side all the way around and finished on this side. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do open blanket, 1, 2, and then we're gonna tie off the needles. So let me do that and then Deborah up a little bit closer for you guys. So open blanket, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick the needle through on the opposite side of the bead, and I'm not gonna pull all the way through. I'm gonna wrap the string around it 3 times and then I'm gonna pull it. All right, so we're gonna come right here. So I already did a stitch there. Now I'm gonna come to the other side right here and I'm gonna put it in, poke it out, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap this around it 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're gonna pull the needle through. Takes a little bit of finesse, but just take your time. Pull it through. And then you're just gonna pull, pull, pull all the way out. I'm pulling out, and then once I get close to the end, I'm gonna pull up. And voila, completely done. So now I'm gonna come through. We're going to cut the string, and then we're gonna do 3 knots, and then we're gonna cut it again. So then we're gonna come. We always reassure that everything's secured, everything's clean, and that way you won't have a client coming back upset that their hair is damaged or that the wefts are slipping out. Now what's important too is to make sure that the tie-off is up but it's kind of out, because if it's too close to the scalp and it's under the weft, it's gonna irritate the scalp area. And cut that. And here we go, you guys. Beautiful stitching, nice and clean on Miss Deborah here. Hope you liked it and have a beautiful day.